Howdy, friends! Thank you for joining me today. My name is Diane, and we are going to be layering trees over sky in chalk pastel. So grab your cup of tea or whatever suits your mood, and let's get started. So before we get into the drawing, we're just going to walk through the materials we need for the class. You will need a piece of paper suitable for chalk pastel drawing, a pencil with an eraser. You'll need a printout of the photo we're going to be copying. We're just going to be doing the top little corner here as an example of how to layer trees over sky in chalk pastel. You're welcome to also look at a digital device if you prefer, but I find it easier to have a physical printed reference. So if you can just look on the internet and search for Albert Bierstadt. This painting is called Autumn in America, Oneida County, New York, done in the 19th century, oil on canvas. You'll find that information at the bottom of your screen as well. So you can pause the video, get that ready, print it out if you'd like, and have it for your reference. You'll also need your set of chalk pastels. I have a large set. You don't necessarily need one this big, but the bigger your set, the less you have to mix colors together to achieve colors that you're trying to achieve in the reference. So if you want an experience where you are kind of forced to mix colors, that's valuable, so go for it if you want a smaller set. If you have a larger set and you just want to have the color you need and not have to mix, then go for that too. Anyway, with that said, we can get started. We're not going to be, oh, actually, we don't need a pencil. We're not drawing. We're just going to be coloring. So we're going to start with the sky, and we're going to put down a base of white because in chalk pastel, you want a base of something for the other colors to kind of grab onto and to be able to be erased from if you need them. So just make sure your white is fairly clean by rubbing it on a small part of your paper that you're not going to use. And then color a large swatch of white kind of in the middle. I'm sure you can't see this because it's white on white. So I'm going to show you with a different color how hard I'm pressing. Something like that. And then once you've gotten that on there, just shake the dust off into the trash can or blow it off. Make sure your finger's clean and kind of rub it. And that will just establish a layer for the other colors to go onto. And it'll be, the colors will go on more smoothly because you have that on there, as well as lighter in some cases because it's white. So in the first part, we're going to be doing kind of a light blue graduated to dark blue, going around some of these big chunks of leaves approximately, but we're just kind of guessing. And then we're going to put leaves on top and then more sky and then more leaves, etc., until we're done, satisfied. So we'll start with kind of a medium blue. Because I've put white down already, this blue is much darker than this one, but it's a muted grayish blue, which is what I want. So it's just a matter of how hard I'm pressing in order to get the lightness. So not very hard. And what I'm doing is trying to kind of create this cavity right here, approximate shape, but knowing I'm going to be layering leaves over it. So I'm going bigger than I think I want to. And then I'm just going to put some dabs of it in larger areas I see peeking through the leaves to establish the shape. Looks like there's probably some here. Yeah. And then I'm going to go in with a darker blue, slightly. It's not actually that, actually it's not that much darker. It's just a purpler, more purpley blue for kind of this color in here. I'm going to overlay it onto the gray blue that I just put down and go down a little bit from there because it sort of fades that way. And then I'm going to go in with the darkest blue kind of at the top corner. And this is too bright, but it's a good darkness, so I can kind of establish the shape and then go back and dull it as I need to. Something like this. And then I'm going to dull it down with kind of a purpley gray. So now I'm pressing pretty hard, whereas all these other colors I was pressing fairly lightly. And the reason I'm pressing hard is twofold. One is to blend, And when you're blending with one pastel with another pastel, you kind of need to press hard in order to kind of get rid of all those little white specks. The other reason is to neutralize the color. And because this color is less dominant than the blue I put down first, I have to press kind of hard to get that to happen. You may be wondering why I used the brighter dominant color first, or not, but if you are, there's really no reason. I could have done this one first and pressed kind of hard and then used the other one to press lighter. But I guess, well, there's a reason, because doing it in this order allowed me to blend as well as neutralize the color at the same time. So now I'm going to go back with a light gray and just kind of blend the sky. So now I'm pressing kind of hard for the same reason I pressed hard up there. I'm trying to both adjust the color, so it's lightening the blue to be more like the blue in the reference, but it's also blending it. So I'm just going to do that all the way up and color mostly horizontally or in like kind of sideways ovals to mimic the direction that the sky is going. I'm going to shake the dust off into the trash can next to me here. Blow it a little bit. And that's pretty good for the first layer of sky. You can also have, by the way, a cloth handy to wipe your fingers. I forgot to mention that. Or if you're wearing painting clothes, just wipe it on your pants. I do that all the time. So we'll go into leaves now. We're going to start with the yellowy tree. So I'll start with the kind of a goldenrod color. I'm just going to color in circles because that mimics faraway leaves very well. And I'm going to go right into the blue and just color all this area, kind of going way into those blue patches I just did, leaving this for the red. So I'll just go down a little bit. Remember, we're not, well, I'm not doing a huge amount of this picture. You are certainly welcome to do as much as you like. And then for the base on the red, I'm going to use kind of a bright orangey red. Wow, that one was really dirty from the last thing I did. So I'm just going to color in little circles, overlapping the yellow, going back into the sky here, and down into the blue quite a bit. Kind of mimicking that, but really not paying too much attention to it. I'm just using it as a reference, but the point of this exercise is to achieve the effect. So I'm not too concerned with getting the exact shape. So there's our first layer of tree. Shake off the dust. And now I'm going to go back and let's see, darken, add some darks. Oops. Got to get this one a little clean. That one's not working so well. So sometimes when chalk pastels sit in a kit for a long time, they get a little bit shiny, waxy. They kind of lose their chalkiness. So you have to really color a lot, or you could even break it in half to get the kind of fresh chalk pastel out of the middle. But I'm going to start by trying to color to kind of get it reinvigorated. Let's see if that works a little better. Kind of. And that's good enough for what I need it for, which is just barely darkening some bottom edges. And what I'm doing now, instead of little circles, is I'm kind of planting the pastel and creating little dabs. And that's going to help it, the leaf-likeness, kind of start to happen. Then I'm going to use some olive green over here on the yellow. Same thing, so I'm just sort of dabbing. There's like some lines of shadow underneath these clumps of leaves, so I'm going to do that just to get a different color in there. Go up into the blue a bit with some dabs. Okay, let's see. Now let's add some browns for branches. So this is just very, very early rudimentary. well, it's a very short class, so it's not that early, but what we're going to do is just put in a couple suggestions for branches where we see them, something like that. Just use the corner of the pastel. And this is really going to establish the fact that, hey, these are trees, not just yellow and green and red clumps of cotton hovering in front of a sky. So something like that. For branches, it's a really good thing to know about trees that the lower the branch is to the ground, the thicker it is. The lower the twig is to the branch, the thicker it is. So anytime you're making a branch, you start thick and kind of pull up and lift off to go thin. Same thing with twigs. Anytime you're doing any sort of tree or branch or bush or anything, the stick is always going to be thinner at the tip than it is at the base. So we've got that in there. And now let's just go back and do some more blending. So I'm going to use the original yellow. And I resisted the temptation to spread around the green the first time, but watch what happens now when I put the yellow in and put dabs over it. It kind of gets the green onto the yellow stick so that anytime I plant the yellow, it's creating a little bit of blended shading. So I really emphasized putting the darks in the darker areas. And then when I put the light over, it spreads really nice and it reads as shadow on the bottom, light on the top, but they sort of intermix with one another. Actually, I'm going to take some of that branch color, that kind of brownish orange also, and put some into the tree leaves as well on the greenish yellow tree. Just a little bit. It'll give it some character, some more autumny flavor, and add to the richness of the color. And then on the red part, I'm going to get kind of a yellowy orange going. That one's really dirty too. And just put some dabs in on that, which is not showing up very well, but that's okay. You can kind of see it's just warming it up a little bit, adding some brightness and light. I'm going to dab that into the sky. So you started with circles for leaves, and then as you get more sophisticated, you change into these little dabs, and it really reads as bunches of leaves, as long as your dabs are going out into the surrounding area. I'm going to use a dark brown also to kind of add a little shadow to the branches. So I'm going to put just kind of with the corner of the pastel, a little shadow on the left side of each branch. Teeny little line up the middle of each twig. That's going to help them pop out a little bit more. Blow off the dust. And then as needed, you can go back and add more sky. Like say I wanted to add a little bit more, like a peephole through here. So I could go back with that kind of light gray. And I'm not starting with the blue because I really want to establish the light first. And then go back with my blues. And then then blend with the gray. So I'll put the blue in. And then blend with the gray. And now I've got kind of a gaping, unsophisticated hole there. So I go back with my original colors and sort of dab around it. And that's all you really need to do. And there I've created a new little peephole for the sky to show through. And you can do that anywhere. So that is our quick little ditty on layering tree textures over sky in chalk pastel. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for joining me.